Hey everyone, Sean here, and today I wanted to take the time in this abridged rendition of the H525 review to spill my thoughts about my time with Atomic Heart by Munfish and what my overall review is, and along with other discussions involving with its ending. I did play this on my PC via Game Pass and beat it around 30 hours at the very most, giving you an idea of what the game is kind of like. Atomic Heart is often compared to BioShock and Fallout by many gamers, also the love child of the two. As a whole, I personally felt like this was an open world BioShock and much less similar to that of Fallout. Aside from the retro future noir sort of flavor, perhaps Wolfenstein players may find some similarities here too, but I digress. BioShock offers a linear story experience, and this game is not too far from that actually. It borrows a number of elements from BioShock, such as the abilities, story elements, political thematics, sense of satire, and so on. Fallout offers a rather vast open world with plenty of things to find and do. The open world presented here, while yes, it certainly exists, there really is no whole lot of things to do. Other than finding extra loot, audio logs, and certain crafting blueprints, you unlock doors going into dungeons called testing grounds. These testing grounds hold rare blueprints to help you vastly upgrade your weapons. During these segments, you are met with puzzles or enemy mobs before you encounter each reward chest. These were admittedly a fun time. Although what is strange is that these testing grounds are out of order, as some of them appear to be locked behind future DLC that you have to pay for, along with extra weapons, enemies, and so on. Right now there are only 8 of them, which is rather disappointing. What also makes this game less similar to that of Fallout is the fact that there are no NPCs that offer side quests. What you're dealing with are just dead bodies with neural connectors that originally helped control robots to do human services such as cleaning and so on and so forth. You only talk to these bodies for extra lore for the most part. There are ones where they are tied to the story quests, but that's really about it. Besides collecting loot and pieces of lore, you're going around eliminating the enemies for the sake of leveling up your main character or getting to your destination. What you also do in the open world of Facility 3826 is dealing with the communication systems that are key with these robots. What you also do in the open world of Facility 3826 is dealing with the communication systems that are key with these enemies, at least with the robots anyway. You have the option to completely omit communication by blowing up the relays after unlocking certain doors via surveillance cameras. This renders the robots completely useless and gives you the opportunity for easy looting or easily unlock doors of certain buildings. Now this does serve as a double-edged sword in a way, because this also shuts down the cameras, and those are the keys actually to opening the testing ground doors before you actually enter them. So you may want to carefully find the testing ground doors, unlock them, and then shut down communications to shut down the robots. These robots are actually supposed to be self-sufficient and they repair themselves via other robots, and these robots just continuously supposed to come out from the hives, but because of the bugs in this game, that doesn't happen, so therefore these robots are actually permanently shut down until the patches fix them, hopefully. Again, that's kind of ironic. Speaking of doors, this game offers more puzzles than expected, and creative ones at that, involving with magnets to help you get through the levels. Many doors actually come with locks that open with finger snapping or with Rubik's Cube-esque puzzles. This open world within Atomic Heart is actually rather small and kind of dry in terms of game content as a whole, especially once you beat the story. In fact, I think they pretty much left out fast travels on purpose for the game to feel vast when it's actually not. It's kind of like I can't believe it's butter, but it's not really butter. One way to travel faster across the map are the red cars that are presented in the game. Another interesting note is that early on, you can explore around Granny Zena's area, but once you take the train, you can't go back, which kind of sucks, because I wanted to travel back and explore more of that area once I obtain more power-ups and stronger weapons, since during the early phase of things are scary since you don't really have that much resources for you to fight enemies.
Lousy piece of shit.
Huh. Oh, did he actually just come out from the shitter? Oh shit. Oh fuck. Shit. Ow. Though it is not to say that whatever is offered here is not fun. Beating enemies with your weapons and abilities is rather satisfying, especially with the small details and nice animations. For example, whenever you reload your pistol, depending on the number of bullets, that actually gets visually reflected. You also get a series of electric weapons, guns, and melee weapons to help you fight against not only robots, but also enemies reminiscent of The Last of Us, the organics. While enemy variety is pretty decent, I felt like they all attack the same pattern with that similar leaping attack that you can just dodge out of the way, unless there's a lot of them at once. You can upgrade your weapons to suit your needs, whether to fight robots more effectively or the organics, although this could be just a placebo and you can just pretty much upgrade whatever you want and just do more damage in general against either robots or organics. And this is of course after beating testing grounds or just playing the game in general. Beating any enemy will offer you points to power up your character. Your abilities mostly come from your glove that talks to you, as you can zap, lift via telekinesis, freeze, shield, and cover your enemies with a reactive polymer goo, which you can also upgrade after beating enemies. I found that the telekinesis is really powerful after certain upgrades you make, as you can easily multi-kill enemies and even lift up big bosses. So if there's a one ability you really want to go in on first, I would say the telekinesis. By the end of the main story, I was able to upgrade most of my abilities and my character also, and if you want to, you can swap out abilities via just swapping points. So if you don't feel like using the shield too much, then you can use those points on the shield to transfer that over to the other abilities you want to focus on more, like I did in this playthrough. I just found that the shield was pretty boring in comparing to all the other abilities, especially with the telekinesis. It's really powerful. So it's actually kind of nice to be able to transfer your abilities wherever you want to suit your style. Stealth is present, but not really the forefront of the game's combat. The controls are a bit clunky, but you grow to tolerate it since the game itself is fun. Now, I did play this with the controller the whole time, and there were a lot of times where it just felt really clunky with the menu selection to where I can't even select that menu option, so I had to click it with a mouse. So that's something to worth note. This first-person shooter is actually one of the few to exclusively omit the sprint button, but instead you can move forward slightly faster than your average game, but it's not a full sprint at that, if that makes sense. You do, however, have a dodge button which can act as a dash to move faster. Meanwhile, the graphics and designs were thematically neat and looked good while doing so. Let me also mention that this game is rather optimized, as I was able to play this on 2K, ran smoothly for the most part. Unlike games like Cyberpunk, it ran smoothly whenever it did work. So thankfully, the gameplay and graphics here are the greatest strengths that Atomic Heart has, which are pretty important for a video game of course. Now, when it comes to the story, I definitely can't say the same. The story revolves around a soldier with amnesia following orders of the genius Dr. Sechenov, who helped revolutionize polymer, a neurotech liquid that helps control robots and energy resources. After alternate USSR wins World War II against Nazi Germany, he wanted to unveil the updated network of Collective 2.0 to further control robots via thoughts. But of course, disaster strikes, and it is up to you, Major Sergei Nechayev, codenamed P3, and your companion glove Charles to clean up the mess, which is kind of reminiscent of Bioshock, or Bioshock Infinite. The writing and dialogue here comes off as similar to that of the recent Forspoken, even complete with talking to an accessory, in this case a high-tech glove, though the characters here are thankfully more tolerable thanks to the more adequate writing. Having said that, I just felt kind of numb about these characters even by the end of the story, despite attempting to show bonding between your character P3 and Charles the Glove. The overall mood felt like an action movie of the 80s and 90s, especially whenever P3 loved using the phrase crispy critters.
According to biometric readings, this is Patrol.
It is? Crispy critters. Shit.
Am I gonna turn into a crispy critter if I stay in here too long?
Nothing like me.
Crispy critters. At least the tree doesn't
He keeps
talk.
saying that. That's so weird. It's such a weird
Would I really?
quirk. Cartoonish also comes to mind whenever it clashes with these graphic, dark scenes. Even at times it felt like satire towards video games in general, strangely. Especially with P3 talking about his reluctance for puzzles.
Put 3 items on this pedestal that represent the 3 main values of a Soviet citizen: art, labor, and life.
Crispy critters. Now I gotta deal with another crazy ass lock. Fuck, I'm a magnet for annoying bullshit.
By the end of it, you're given two choices with each different ending, and this is where it gets kind of dicey here. The true ending came off rather short and dissatisfying for me because of its rather subpar writing. The alternate ending is just unintentionally hilarious. There were also a number of off-screen deaths of major characters that felt more towards unnecessary and cheap than anything. Okay, so spoiler alert, because I wanted to discuss some things from the ending. So we all know Charles was the mastermind and was controlling you at certain points to kill certain people throughout the story. We also know that Sechenov is also a bad guy because of his actions, including erasing your wife from your memories. He's also basically a piece of shit too. Stuff happened between Sechenov and Charles, aka Chariton Zakharov. Zakharov was murdered, turned into polymer, and then that polymer went to that glove, and that glove was given to P3, I believe by Sechenov. Now, how in the world was that a good idea? How? Now, it is possible that this was explained via audio logs or maybe some dialogue in between some things, but if that's really the case, that is not adequate delivery. Perhaps it's solely because Sechenov saw P3 as a son and Charles, or Chariton, as his best friend from the past. And maybe bringing the two together would kind of somehow work things out. Whatever the case may be, this is a big plot hole, so for me the execution came off as short. And yes, the true ending involves with Charles becoming the true villain as the Black Palmer figure, and you're literally stuck in limbo with your robot wife. So nonetheless, here we are. What does this mean for the future within Atomic Heart? If the story were to continue, Charles will obviously be the main villain for the next part, but if Nechayev were to come back, who is going to be his glove, so to say, so that the gameplay can stay intact. Perhaps his wife can be restored somehow from the robot bodyguards left and right, and integrate into his glove. That will be interesting for a sequel or DLC story. Now with all that out of the way, there are some other notes worth mentioning for Atomic Heart. The music is well done for the most part, albeit some strange choices since some of the songs on the radio sound more like modern Russian music, but that could be a reference to the machines that supposedly predicts the popular music years from the present. Not to mention Mick Gordon of Killer Instinct and Doom fame composed some of the music tracks here, and you can definitely hear that during the boss fights, and that's awesome. Now when it comes to the voicing, it is well acted technically, but I just can't help but being off-put by the different accents of major characters that are mostly Russian. None of them have Russian accents. Now of course there is the exception of Stockhausen since he's German with a German accent, so that works there of course. Now as an open world game, yes, it has its set of bugs. As mentioned, enemies do not regenerate as intended. There were plenty of small specific bugs that occurred off stream, such as getting stuck in places and you can't jump out of them, enemies not coming out from their doors, enemies getting stuck on walls, your character not being able to sprint at times. One of the major ones early on for me was the VSync issue where any change in the settings turns the VSync off. And the only way to turn it on again was to turn on the DLSS frame generation again, which requires to restart the game. And this happened numerous times during my first time playing the game. Luckily that was fixed, I think. Something worth noting is that once you beat the game, you have the option to return to Facility 3826, which allows you to go back to the train station with all your level progression and finish off any exploration on the map. Otherwise, if you hit continue, you'll have to go back to the moment before your final battle. So instead, you have to hit load game, load up your most recent save. Kind of annoying really. One last thing I wanted to bring up are the subtitles. This is an issue that a lot of people have been finding more and more. It just has like tiny text with a black background on it, and that's kind of like coming off as kind of subpar experience of reading things in my opinion, especially if you want to put this into a different language. Yes, there are different languages you can put on besides English. You have Russian, I think Polski, so on and so forth. So basically, those subtitles are pretty tiny to read, and the team is aware, so they are definitely going to try to fix that in the future. So that is it essentially for this review. Atomic Heart ultimately is a fun experience with its soul combat and abilities and such like that, but it is woefully dry and short as an open world shooting game. Of course, everything present within the base game is fun. There is a case of players wanting more versus the game needing more. I believe Atomic Heart falls into the case of the latter. The game is $60 on PC, but $70 for consoles, and it asks even for more money via DLC pass. So with that in mind, I'm going to give Atomic Heart a 7 out of 10. Atomic Heart is essentially a linear first-person shooter story game that tries to be an open world game, but falls short there, kinda. I gladly played this game via Game Pass, so one should try that too. If you like the game, buy and support the game whenever you can, whether it's at full price or during a sale. That's pretty much my final message for the game. So that is it for this video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up, comment, subscribe. I really do appreciate it, guys. So that is it for my review on Atomic Heart. Thank you very much again, and hope to see you all in the next video. Sean out.